Hello, everybody. My name is Alicia Ault. I'm with Level Up Score. I'm the founder of Level Up Score. And so let me say something that may sound a little bit bold, but for most of us, you're doing sales wrong. So wrong. All wrong. You're doing sales wrong. And today I'm going to help you do it right. All right. So now let me get this straight for you guys. It's not because you don't have a great process, that you don't do some great thing, that your system and your services don't provide immense value. Not because you don't have something to sell. Okay, you do. Credit professionals out there, loan officers, real estate agents, you do. You absolutely do. But because most professionals go through the sales process the wrong way. And so I'm going to teach you today how to do that. But most conversations with sales, they start with themselves. And I know you heard this before. I know you've been in a conversation where you're on a sales call with somebody and they start with themselves. And I have personally, because I've been coaching so many businesses and credit professionals, and I'll ask them, sell me your service. And they'll start with talking about themselves, talking about their company, talking about their process. Well, you're going to come in, I'm going to do a consultation, I'm going to review your credit, and we're going to do disputes, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. They talk about their process, they talk about their service, they talk about their package. And that's exactly where sales breaks down. I had a young lady on one of my group coaching, and I asked her to sell me her service, and she did just that. She talked about, well, first thing's going to do, we're going to do a free consultation. I'll review your credit report for you. We'll go over it in detail. We're going to create a plan together on how we can improve your credit scores. I'll do disputes and blah. And she just kept going and going and going. And I stopped her and I said, I asked for a beach house. Okay. So the problem that I had was I wanted the beach house. I didn't really care about the process that it takes to get the beach house. I just want the beach house. Okay. Fair? So let's think of it that way. Because honestly, sales does not start with your offer, should never start with your offer. There are three things that I'm going to discuss with you today that I want you to remember all the time when you're approaching sales. But before I do that, welcome to Tuesday Top Tips. Again, my name is Alicia Ault. I am the founder of Level Up Score. And every Tuesday at 12 noon, I bring you a new tip. It might be a tip on understanding credit basics. Maybe it's about growing your business. But I like to bring you something, and I really kind of listen to my audience about what you guys want and need. So if I get a lot of DMs with questions, that's usually what my Tuesday Top Tip is going to be about. So here's one of those scenarios. So let's go back to the what actually happens in the sales process, right? For most of us, we come in, someone comes into our ecosystem, and we start talking about our services, our company, our process. We just talked about that. But actually, sales starts with three very important things, and that's what I'm going to go over with you today. So those three things are a real problem you can solve. Now, if you're taking notes, even if you're taking them mentally, I want you to think about this first one because it's probably the most important one. You are selling a problem, a solution to a problem. Let me say it right. You are selling a solution to a problem, but underlying real problem. So you should have already investigated your market to find out what their real problem is, and you can solve it. That's important. Make a capital can solve it, right? So a real problem you can solve, because if we're going to sell anyone anything, number one, they have a problem that we're looking to solve. Best we solve their problem if we want to stay in business, right? So best we solve their problem. So make sure it is something that you can solve, and solve with speed, solve with efficiency, right? People buy speed, they buy efficiency. So your job is to consistently refine your process to do those things. So the sales process, again, number one, it starts with a real problem you can solve. I'm going to call this thing one. Thing two, a specific person you solve it for, your audience, a specific audience. We're going to talk more about that. I talk about that a lot. It never gets old. It shouldn't get old, but you are solving a specific audience problem. Okay. And thing number three, a clear conversion path that moves a lead into a decision. So you're providing clarity. You're going to move them into making that decision. This is probably the one thing I want you guys to listen to really closely. You may have this one. You may have this one. This one tends to be the thing that I see most businesses don't have a clear sales conversion path. I'm going to give that to you today, but you got to stick around for the entire Tuesday Top Tip because it is thing number three. Okay. Thing number one is most important. Thing number two is second important. And the conversion process is the third important, but just as important as the others. Now, if any one of these three things are missing, your sales will feel harder than it should. Okay. And we'll talk about that and you'll see why as we talk about that. So, Tuesday's top tip today is simple: fix those three things. So, if you're having a sales conversion problem, if you feel like you need more leads because you're not selling enough, fix these three things. Okay. Focus on these three things. If I could tell any business the number one thing you should be doing is fix your sales conversion. It's easy to go out and get leads. Fix your sales conversion. I study my sales conversion in all my companies over and over and over again. I throw it in ChatGPT. I talk to ChatGPT about it. I study it over and over and over again. How can I make it better? How can I make it more efficient? And I hope you guys will do the same thing after watching this Tuesday top tip. Again, thank you for being here with me today. So thing number one, we'll kind of follow that Dr. Seuss theme. Thing two, thing one. Thing number one, it starts with the problem, right? But what we often do is we talk too much about ourselves, right? We talk about the process. And this is the first problem in most sales processes is if you go back and you look at how they're talking to the consumer and trying to get them to buy your service or your product, it generally is they're talking too much. Talking too much about themselves. They're talking about the company. They're talking about the process. They're talking about the service. They didn't think that maybe the real way to approach this is come to a conclusion of what the problem is that you're solving, right? And so they might say things like, we offer credit repair, we provide coaching, we help businesses grow, we help people with programs to get financing or whatever. So here's the truth. People do not wake up in the morning wondering, oh, I wonder what service someone might sell me today, right? They don't. Sales is not about what you do. Sales is about the problem you solve. So I want you to think about, just pause for a second and think. If I asked you the question, if I came to you and you were wanting to sell me your service, what would you do? And if your first thing to go to is, I would tell you, hey, we're going to do a free consultation and we're going to review your credit. We're going to see where you're at. You've missed the point here for thing number one. Thing number one, we don't even know if the person has the problem that we can solve. Remember, we have to solve it because we have to get them to the promised land, because best we solve the problem, we keep our business, right? But we didn't start there. We thought the phone rang and we picked it up and they already said and they knew what their problem was and they knew we were going to solve their problem. That's not the truth of the matter. So keep that in mind. So this is thing number one. And it's often disregarded because we talk too much about ourselves. So again, most people are opening up with the offer, right? We do this, we do that. Our company helps this. The problem is the prospects do not care about your service first. Remember in the very beginning, we talked about me wanting the beach house. And I asked one of my coaching people to tell me how would you sell me the service? I want to buy a beach house. And she went into, I'm going to do a free consultation, review credit, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you didn't sell me my beach house, right? You didn't sell me my beach house. All I cared about was my beach house. I didn't care about what she was going to do to get me there. I'm trusting that she will get me there, period, right? And so that's the most important thing is, can you get them there? And then do you know what the problem is? So they wake up thinking about their problem, guys. Let's be real here. They wake up thinking about what hurts, what's urgent, what they want fixed. Why did they get denied for the loan? How can they get approved? Why didn't they get the funding that they needed to keep their business going? Why does my credit score keep dropping? These are the things that are going through their head when they wake up in the morning. Why is my bank account a negative? How do we get all this under control? Right? If you cannot clearly identify the problem, your sales will always feel hard. So the first problem that you need to do is make sure that you fully understand the problem. This is where you're asking questions. Now I'm going to offer you at the end of this live to look into the comments and you're going to see a link to get my sales conversion guide. Now, the sales conversion guide is going to give you the questions that you should be asking in your sales process, the full sales process that I'm going to go over with you in step 3 or thing 3. And it's also going to give you some scripts that you can use. So I'm like laying it out for you. I'm going to give you all of this stuff because I want you to be successful and I want you to understand how to do this, because I know that this can be a rather tough situation if you're not, and a lot of us aren't. We're entrepreneurs. We're not sales experts, right? We came into business because we have a solution to a problem and we want to bring that and we really care and we have concern and compassion for these people that you want to help. but you didn't necessarily go to school and become a sales expert, right? So this is my gift to you. So you'll see that in the comments below, a link to get my sales conversion guide. But again, if you cannot clearly identify the problem, your sales will always feel hard. If you're trying to solve everything, you will convert almost nothing. So I'm going to talk a little bit deeper about that here in a moment when we go to thing number 2, which is audience. A lot of you keep telling me when I ask you the question, who do you help? I help everybody with credit problems. No, you don't. No, you don't. You can't. You're not going to be the best at everything. You absolutely will not be. You know, I can think of a handful of people who are really good at this in credit repair, really good at this, really good at that, but they're not great at everything, right? We can't be. So we'll talk about that in more detail here in a second, but I just want you to know that. So if you're trying to solve everything, you will solve nothing. Okay. You don't have an audience. But let's go back to this whole thing about the problem. If your sales message, and I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you the questions to ask, but if your sales message does not connect to the problem immediately in the sales process, the person is going to simply, if they're looking at social media, they're going to keep scrolling, right? If they're on a consultation with you, they're going to tune you out, right? They're going to feel this salesy process because you have not listened and understood them. When people feel understood, their ears pop up, they start listening to you. They want to know what your solution could be to their problem because they feel like you fully understand the problem. You instantaneously build trust. That trust converts to them believing that you have the solution for their problem, that you're going to deliver on that solution because you listened to them and you understood their problem. And they can feel that you felt their emotions on that, right? And you will if you have the right niche. We're going to talk about that here in a moment. Again, I'll say this one more time. People do not buy services. They buy solutions to their problem. They don't wake up thinking about what service am I going to buy today. They wake up, how do I solve this problem? Okay. They buy the solutions to the problems they're already feeling, the ones they woke up to, the one that's in the pit of their stomach, the one they can't get off their mind, the one that's keeping them down and they can't move on in their day, the one that's keeping them depressed, the one that's keeping them in bed. That's what they need your help for. That's what they're looking for. So the first step in a better sales process is asking yourself a very simple question. What specific problem do you solve? Not generally, like what I generally do this. Specifically, what problem do you solve? So for example, we have people in the credit industry say, I help people with credit, but that's still vague. Help people with credit, what credit, right? But if you say stuff like, I was a first-time homebuyer specialist, so I help first-time homebuyers get mortgage ready so they can buy their first home. Right? That's specific. That's the audience I'm talking to. That's a problem I'm solving. For instance, I help entrepreneurs clean up their credit profile so they can access business funding. That's specific, right? I help consumers understand why their credit score dropped and what actions they can take to raise them. That's specific. And I think you can see the difference in that. When problems become clear, the message becomes powerful. And when the message becomes powerful, the right people start paying attention. If you're taking mental notes or you're writing notes, the right people start paying attention. So if your sales feels hard, if your consultations don't convert, if people are interested but they never actually sign up, the issue may not be in your confidence. It might not be in your program. You may have an amazing program that will deliver them to the promised land, but it may be that your message isn't clearly anchored to the problem that people recognize. So your first job in sales is not to explain what you do. Scratch that off the list. I don't care what you do. I don't care all the little details. I don't care about that process. Your job is to make someone feel understood. Your job is to identify and diagnose the problem. Okay? Because again, when someone feels fully understood, they start listening. And when they start listening, the sales becomes possible. Thing number 2, if your niche is blurry, your sales are weak. So now we're going to be talking about thing number 2, which was audience, right? A specific person that you're talking to, a specific audience that you're talking to, right? Because the truth is if you don't know who that specific audience is, that specific person, then you're going to be blurry and your sales are going to be weak. Your messaging is going to be weak. Shoot, you might not even know what you do. Okay. You certainly aren't going to be an expert in all things. A lot of professionals, though, they're really afraid of niching down. I cannot tell you how many conversations I've had with those that I coach And I kind of discover what may be their niche through conversations, and I present some ideas to them. And then a lot of times they'll be like, oh, yes, that's me. That's me. I feel that. And then when I start to just to kind of bring this out, like this is the program that you're going to offer. Sometimes I'll get this reluctance, like, wait a minute. Yes, I feel that. That's me. That's who I should be talking to. That's who I want to talk to. But, Allie, can I just talk to everybody, hoping I get that person? Because I don't want to limit myself. You limited yourself already when you went wide, guys. So let me just be honest with you, because no one knows what you actually do. I like to bring up the story of me in the mortgage industry, and I became the first time homebuyer specialist. Before that, when I would meet up with real estate agents and they'd ask me what I do, I'm a loan officer. Okay, great. What kind of loans do you do? Well, I do all of them. And I remember one of my most memorable conversations with a real estate agent. He was a pretty prominent real estate agent, and I was trying really hard to get into his office. And finally, I got into his office. And I won't tell you the full story here because some of you have heard it because I do speak on stages and I talk about this. But just to kind of bring this message home, he asked me that question. Well, what kind of loans do you do? I was like, I do all of them, And he goes, well, I can't refer to you then. I'm like, he goes, you can't do every loan and be an expert in every loan. And I simply don't know how to refer to you because I don't know what you do. And that really put a huge impression on me. I was in my early 20s at the time. And I thought about that and realized he was absolutely 100% right. And when I niched down and said I work with first time home buyers, people would come up to me and they're like, I refer to you all the time because I know exactly who you need and who you're the best to work with. So I didn't have to go out marketing to real estate agents. They would just send me their business. Even if they are best friend was a loan officer, if they had a client that was a first time homebuyer client, they would send them to me first. So they would tell their friend, hey, I know I'm going to send you everything else, but first time homebuyers, I have to send to Allie because that's what she does. And I did. And I was really good at it. I was truly an expert at it because I became an expert because that's the audience that I worked for. So I learned exactly what their problems were, exactly how to talk to them, exactly what to do to help them, right? Your sales language will improve when you know who you serve, what season they're in, what they most need and want, and even what they're afraid of. And that's what I learned when I became a first-time homebuyer specialist. And I get a lot of pushback from people. A lot of times they're scared, but I cannot tell you enough how that opens the door for the floodgates to move in, for people to know exactly what you do and how you can service them. But when we're talking about the sales process, thing number two, it's this idea that by doing that, we can have a stronger message. So thinking about, instead of saying stuff like, I help people with credit, we can be saying stuff like, I help future home buyers understand exactly what is standing between them and mortgage readiness. Not like I help entrepreneurs, but I help credit professionals convert leads into clients using a clear sales process. That's what I'm doing for you guys today, right? I help credit professionals convert leads into paying clients using a clear sales process. So if I was talking to you today, that would be my message. I wouldn't say I help entrepreneurs. I don't think you guys have ever heard me say that. I help entrepreneurs. I always say I help credit and financial professionals do bump, 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 bump. Why? Because I'm good at it. Why? Because I've been doing it for August will be 24 years, right? Why? Because I have my master's degree in that, so I can deliver you to the promised land, right? And so again, if we go back to problem, what real problem do we solve? Do we solve, right? We are going to deliver on the promised land. And then we're looking at our audience. Who is that audience that needs that problem solved for them? There are specific people that need that specific problem solved for them. And that's what we go through. That's who we go to. That's number two in that sales process. I promise you, you will not be sad if you niche down and you really have that specific person. It's going to do amazing things for you. People are going to know how to refer to you. People are going to know exactly who you are, what you do. So they're never going to question you about what that is. They're going to see you as an expert in that thing. And if you're not an expert today in that thing, you will become an expert, right? You don't go to an attorney and the attorney goes, yeah, I help people with all things, right? If you want an attorney in the credit world, there is one guy that we all know that if we want contracts done, we go to him. We all know who he is. His name is John. So you guys know, you would go to John. John will be the person, right? So why do we all know that? Because that's who he said he was. He didn't say, I help everybody with everything. He says, no, I help credit professionals do their contracts, blah, 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 blah. We know who he is. And so just think about that when you're thinking about people. How do you know who a person is? Have you thought of like people you know and you're like, ah, yeah, that guy does this. And it's because he had a specific audience. And so his messaging is going to be more powerful and he's going to convert leads better because he is going to very much know who his audience is, what their pain points are, what their fears are, what they need most, what they want most, right? All that comes from that. So now we're going to go to thing three. And thing three is probably the thing most people don't have. So a lot of times you know what the problem is that you're solving it. You know the audience you're speaking to that audience. But thing three is usually not there. I don't see it in a lot of businesses at all. And that's a actual sales conversion process. What happens when leads come in? You need to know how to convert them. And there is actually a sales process that you should be going through on converting them. And that's what I'm going to share with you guys today. Again, in the comments, you're going to find a link to get my sales conversion guide. It's going to give you more details than I can give you on this live today because we only have 30 minutes. But I promise you, it's a guide. It has like questions you would ask. It has the entire process laid out, scripts and everything. So get your hands on that. I think it'll help you, especially, like I said before, most of us come in as entrepreneurs and we didn't come in as sales experts. We had to like learn through trial and error and hope and pray, right? And if we get number one and number two, thing number one and thing number two down, it becomes a lot easier, right? But if we can also get thing number three down pat, it becomes so much easier. And I'll be honest with you, this is the one I struggle with the most. It's the one I go over and over and over in my sales process, constantly refining, making it better and better and better. So I want to share that with you guys. We'll talk a little bit about it here, but make sure you get that sales conversion guide that I've created for you guys. So this is what I call the third issue. It is one very important piece. Remember at the beginning, I told you if you're missing any one of these three, then it's going to be your sales process is going to be harder. So if we want to fix those things, this is the third thing to fix. Again, I'll say a lot of people don't need more leads. They don't. They have enough. And maybe you do. Maybe you do need more leads, but oftentimes it's not that. And if you do, how about we fix this sales conversion process? We fix number one, thing number two, and thing number three. So when we do get the leads in, we're converting them. Okay. So don't underestimate this part of the process. So, a lot of you, though, you have leads coming in, you have people asking questions, you have people scheduling consultations, people are messaging you, but your conversation isn't turning into a decision. And I hear it all the time. You guys call me all the time. I know. You DM me. I know. Why? Because there's no sales process. It's just random. And we think that it's going to be our personality that people buy. And they do. Trust me, they do. We think it's our charisma that's going to get people to buy. And they do. But what if we had an actual sales conversion process? Okay. Let's think about that for a second. So there is an actual sales process. A lot of people don't know that, right? So what happens first is the lead comes in, and then we start a conversation with the lead. Notice that I'm not selling anything here. I'm starting a conversation with them. You're going to see this in the guide that you guys can get today. I spent a lot of time putting that guide together for you. I put a lot of thought and energy into it because I wanted to make it something where you can pick that guide up and you can use it today to help your sales conversion process. You guys know I like to do that. I want you to take what you learned today and put it into process. And it's not just a gimmick and I'm trying to give you a little bit, so I give you nothing, right? You guys know that. So lead comes in, you start a conversation. This is where you're asking them questions. Someone once told me that in a sales conversation, if you download the transcript and the salesperson is talking over 20% of the time, then you probably can also see that they didn't convert. So conversation is you're engaging that lead into a conversation. They should be speaking 80% of the time because you should be asking questions and better questions. And again, that'll be in that sales conversion guide. Why? You need to understand their problem. You need to understand their situation. That's how you diagnose the situation. That's how you are able to find a solution. And quite honestly, if we're being super honest with the lead, are we the solution? Right? Hopefully you guys aren't signing people up that you're not solution for. So diagnosing it, what solutions are there? And then you can present that offer And then you would answer some more questions. You're doing a follow-up, and then you're guiding them to a decision. You're guiding them to a clear path to make a decision, whether that's a yes or no decision, but they're going to get a clear path to that. And that is a sales conversion process in a nutshell. Now, in the guide, you're going to get exactly what all of these mean, where the questions are, how to do it. You're going to get the scripts, but this is the process. So I want you to think about that for a second. Do you have anything that looks like this yet? Do you have anything that looks like this? Do you know what happens when the lead comes in? Are you starting a conversation? How much are you talking? How much are they talking? Are you diagnosing the problem based on their situation and what they're talking about in their conversation? Are you then able to come up with a solution? Can you then present an offer to them? Can you then follow up with answers to their questions? Can you then guide them to a decision, wrapping up and closing them? This is where I see a lot of people just hang loose and they don't even ask. They don't even do the ask for the offer. They do all this work here and they don't even ask. They're just hoping the person goes, yeah, I want to sign up, right? So think about that for a second. So if I were going to sum this up a little bit better, most professionals lose sales because they pitch too early, right? So they talk too much. We talked about that 80-20 rule. They explain their program before understanding the problem. I hear that most often. They never ask enough questions. They rarely ask questions. They're just giving answers. And they never clearly present the next step. That's what I was talking about, wrapping it all up. Here's the clear next step to what you need to do. And they end the conversation with something like, hey, let me know what you think. What do you think? Do you want to move forward? What do you think? I hear this kind of stuff all the time. And that's where the sell dies, right? That's where the sales dies. Sales should not feel pushy. It should just feel clear. Your job is not to convince someone. Your job is to determine three things. Does the person have a real problem? Thing number one. Can you genuinely help them with that problem? Are they ready to solve that problem right now? Because they might not be ready. But if the answer to all three of those questions is yes, then your offer should feel like the next logical step for them. Just the next logical step. So if you've been thinking, I need more leads, I need better marketing, I need a bigger audience, I need a better audience, right? Pause for a moment because more leads won't fix a weak conversion process. If your process is weak, your leads are weak, and they leak. So think about that for a second. If you don't fix the sales conversion process, and guys, especially if you're paying for ads, you're paying for leads, get this down before you start doing that kind of thing, right? Get this down because otherwise you're throwing away a lot of money in this process. So again, if you want better sales, stop starting with your service. Start with the problem you can solve, the person you solve it for. Thing number one, the problem you can solve. Thing number two, the person you solve it for. Thing number three, the process that moves them into a decision. Because sales done right is not about pressure, it's about clarity. It's showing them the next logical move. So today's Tuesday top tip is very simple. Three things. Thing one, the problem. Thing two, the audience. And thing three, the sales conversion process. I also want to invite you guys all to my live demo. I will have a live demo on how do you automate your business? How do you automate your business, improve your revenue, and improve the value that you give to your clients while also sitting on the beach? Because that's what I do. I'm doing that on Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. That's this Wednesday. That is tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time. A couple other updates for you guys that I'd love for you to know. Number one, in the comments below, you can click on the link to get my sales conversion process or guide. Please get that. I want you to be able to take what I've put out here today. I want you to be able to take it home and really put it into practice and see how that works for you. I like to use the term a lot, feedback refine, so you consistently find out what is the proper way for your business to do it, what are the proper questions, and keep looking at that and making it better and better. So that's one. I appreciate you all. Have an amazing day. And if I can help you at all, DM is a great way to communicate with me. You can always comment in the comments here as well. Thank you.